Thank you all for joining us here at I-80 Sports, where today we are talking winners and losers from the trade deadline this past week. Guys, thank you all for joining us here again at I-80 Sports. Thank you all for joining us here again at I-80 Sports, and thank you again for finding us here on YouTube. If you're here and you're probably not subscribed, you probably think you do, but you're definitely not subscribed. Make sure you hit subscribe, hit the bell notification for all of the updates that we got coming at you the rest of this NHL season. And hey, if you're interested in any of the other sports around the around the world, such as the MLS, NFL, NCAA football, NBA, wrestling, you name it, we're here for that. And hey, with our conversation right now, drop a comment down below. We want to have a conversation with you guys in the comment section below. Let us know who you thought were winners and losers of the trade deadline. And you can also find us on our website, i80sports.com, with all the sports that we mentioned below as well. And hit up our shop while you're there. Get yourself a t-shirt as low as $8. We're rolling in the spring, and you definitely need some new t-shirts. And if you're on Twitter, make sure you follow us down below at I80_sportsNHL. If you follow us already, thank you guys so much, because we greatly value all of your support. But let's get rolling with this episode. I'm Brian. He's Tom. Tom, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. And here we are post-trade deadline. To tell you the truth, it wasn't the craziest deadline ever. But I'm going to tell you right now, a lot more happened than I thought would happen. It was a little bit of a surprise. Obviously, we saw some big names move. Saw one big name go somewhere where I didn't ever think he would go. And we saw another guy who we all thought was as good as gone stay put.
Yeah, we had a lot of moving and shaking around the trade deadline. For a trade deadline that was kind of silent, it also kind of wasn't. It's like that weird middle ground of like being a little quiet, but not being that quiet. I don't know. It's a little bit weird. But even still, we got to talk about and break down the trades that went on. We got to talk about our winners and losers. So let's hit up that traffic report. Let's take a look at every single trade that happened since our episode last week. Let's hit up that traffic report.
The I-80 Sports Traffic Report, where you can find all your news and notes from the week.
So the NHL news this week is just all the trades that we did not get to cover last week because we recorded last week on March 16th. Literally, we got done recording and not even 10 minutes later, we had the next major trade that happened. So we need to start from there and work our way forward. Pray for my vocal cords right now. You can drop that in the comment section below, but all right, we're going to go trade by trade here. We won't react to them. We're just going to talk about what some of our favorite trades were, but I'm just going to read off every single trade right now. So the first trade, we had the Florida Panthers acquiring Ben Sherratt from the Montreal Canadiens for Tyler Smilanic. I totally butchered that. Sorry. A 2023 first round pick and a 2022 fourth round pick. So,
and I hinted at that one last week.
That is one you hinted at last week. And I thought that maybe he could have gone to LA, and lo and behold, I was wrong. Tom, once again, as always, you were right.
I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just stating fact.
Exactly. Next, I like this trade. Calgary Flames acquiring Cale Yarncroc from the Seattle Kraken for a 2022 second round pick, a 2023 third round pick, and a 2024 seventh round pick. Not the person that we thought from Seattle going to Calgary in this move, but we'll get to that player later. The Tampa Bay Lightning, and another big splash move, acquiring Brandon Hagel from the Chicago Blackhawks, along with a 2022 fourth round pick and a 2024 fourth round pick in exchange for a 2023 first round pick, a 2024 first round pick, Boris Katchouk, and Taylor Radish. It should be noted that the 2023 and 2024 first round picks are both lottery protected. They are top 10 protected picks. So the condition on that would be that the first round picks would go back to Tampa Bay if, for whatever reason, they win the lottery. I don't think that's going to be happening, though. Next, the Minnesota Wild acquired Nick Delorier from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for a 2023 third-round pick. Great move there for the Anaheim Ducks, but more on that later. Speaking of the Anaheim Ducks, a major trade going down with the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins acquiring Hampus Lindholm and Cody Curran from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for a 2022 first-round pick, a 2023 second-round pick, a 2024 second-round pick, Urho Vakanainen, and John Moore. Quite a few pieces leaving the Boston Bruins on that one, but what they're getting back in return is huge. Next, probably arguably the biggest trade of this trade deadline, the Florida Panthers acquiring Claude Giroux from the Philadelphia Flyers, along with a 2025 fifth-round pick, Connor Bunnaman, and German Rubstov. Oh my God, I can't pronounce names today. In exchange for Owen Tippett, a 2024 first-round pick, and a 2023 third-round pick. More on that later because I'm pretty disappointed with Philadelphia on this one. Next, the Florida Panthers keeping it rolling here, acquiring Robert Haig from the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for a 2022 sixth-round pick. Great value for the Florida Panthers there. Next, another major splash, this time from Seattle. The Toronto Maple Leafs acquiring Mark Giordano and a man that Tom is quite familiar with in Colin Blackwell in exchange for a 2022 second-round pick, a 2023 second-round pick, and a 2024 third-round pick. Love this deal for the Toronto Maple Leafs. More on that later. Next, the Ottawa Senators acquiring Travis Hamonic from the Vancouver Canucks for a 2022 third-round pick. Moving right along, the Detroit Red Wings making a trade with the Los Angeles Kings. The Los Angeles Kings acquiring Troy Stecher from the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for a 2022 seventh-round pick. Again, great value there for the Los Angeles Kings. Next, Vancouver Canucks acquiring Travis Dermott from the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for a 2022 third-round pick. Hey, it was a necessary move for Toronto to make once they acquired Mark Giordano. Next, the Tampa Bay Lightning acquiring Nick Paul from the Ottawa Senators in exchange for Matthew Joseph and a 2024 fourth-round pick. Matthew Joseph is great value there for the Ottawa Senators. I think a change of scenery will be great for him, and he'll get every opportunity to play in that bottom six right now for them. So great move by them. Next, Nashville Predators, as I'm currently wearing right now, acquiring Jeremy Lauzon from the Seattle Kraken in exchange for a 2022 second-round pick. Great move for Seattle in this move. Next, the Dallas Stars acquiring some insurance from the Arizona Coyotes, acquiring goaltender Scott Wedgwood from the Arizona Coyotes in exchange for a 2023 fourth-round pick. I mean, great move for Arizona because Scott Wedgwood, in my mind, is not worth a fourth-round pick. I'm sorry. But that's how the goaltender market just shakes out this year. Next, Arizona actually acquiring a player here. The Arizona Coyotes acquiring Jack McBain from the Minnesota Wild in exchange for a 2022 second-round pick. Next, the Winnipeg Jets reacquiring forward Mason Appleton from the Seattle Kraken in exchange for a 2023 fourth-round pick. Keeping this rolling because we got a ways to go with this. The Pittsburgh Penguins acquiring Nathan Beaulieu from the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for this year's seventh-round pick. The Winnipeg Jets also acquiring a fourth-round pick from the Arizona Coyotes in exchange for Brian Little and Nathan Smith. Seattle keeping the moves going here, acquiring Daniel Sprong and a 2022 fourth-round pick and a 2023 sixth-round pick in exchange for Marcus Johansson. It should also be noted that with Marcus Johansson, that Seattle is retaining 50% of Marcus Johansson's contract just to help Washington here. But cool reunion here for the Washington Capitals reacquiring Marcus Johansson. It's been a few years since he's been in that jersey, so pretty cool reunion. Major trade here, and Tom, I'll just say it right now. We did not have this team on our radar for this player. But Marc-Andre Fleury traded from the Chicago Blackhawks, going to Minnesota of all places. Kind of
surprised the you-know-what out of me because I thought for sure he was either going nowhere or he was maybe going to go to the Leafs or the Penguins.
Yeah.
And the Leafs are funny mad at Chicago right now because the rumored deals the Leafs had were eons and eons better than Minnesota. So I don't know what Kyle Dubas did to upset the Chicago Blackhawks management, but wow.
Yeah.
And I don't want to ramble too much, but I
We'll
don't
get
really
to
know
that
what
later.
this does for Minnesota. I'm going to leave it at that.
Oh, yeah, and we'll get to that later. I mean, you could say that this trade for Minnesota was wild. Huh? Huh? I'll be back with jokes later. Anyway, so Minnesota acquiring Marc-Andre Fleury in exchange straight up for a 2022 first-round pick. There is a condition on this because Chicago's 2022 second-round pick is technically conditional and becomes a first-round pick if Minnesota makes the conference final and Fleury wins 4 games in the first 2 rounds. So more on this later. This could be very, very interesting. Next, because Marc-Andre Fleury was acquired by the Minnesota Wild, that made a goaltender, easily cast off and dispensable because the San Jose Sharks acquiring goaltender Kaapo Kähkönen as well as a 2022 fifth-round pick from Minnesota exchange for Jacob Middleton, which was kind of surprising here. Jacob Middleton's a really, really good piece that's going over to Minnesota, and Minnesota just stockpiling defenders. They've got some really good defenders over there now. Nashville Predators acquiring Alex Biega in exchange for future considerations, which basically means a bag of pucks. Next, Tom's favorite team here, the New York Rangers acquiring Justin Braun from the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for a 2023 third-round pick. And what's sad here is the Philadelphia Flyers got better value here than out of Claude Giroux. More on that later. Yeah, I'm still salty about that. Next, a 1-for-1 trade here. The LA Kings acquiring Frederick Allard from the Nashville Predators in exchange for Braden Burke. Next, the Edmonton Oilers acquiring Brett Kulik from the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for William Lagesson, a 2022 second-round pick and a 2024 seventh-round pick. Next, the Ottawa Senators acquiring Zach Senyshyn and a 2022 fifth-round pick in exchange for Josh Brown and a 2022 seventh-round pick for the Boston Bruins. And that's one player from the Boston Bruins that demanded a trade, and the other one, well, was not dealt, and we'll talk about him later. Next, the Montreal Canadiens acquiring Justin Barron and a 2024 second-round pick from Colorado. So one of their top prospects here leaving in that trade in exchange for right-winger Artturi Lehkonen. So it was certainly worth it for Colorado picking up Artturi Lehkonen, just push even more forward towards that potential Stanley Cup. St. Louis Blues acquiring Nick Leddy and Luke Witkowski from the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for Jake Wallman, Oscar Sundqvist, and a 2023 second-round pick. So another bit of that 2019 St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup winning team. Another one of those players cast off into the sunset, Oscar Sundqvist, a member of that squad, cast off to the Detroit Red Wings. Good luck, sir. Next, Colorado Avalanche acquiring Andrew Cogliano from the San Jose Sharks for a 2024 fifth-round pick. God damn, these trades don't end. Next, Johan Larsson going to the Washington Capitals from the Arizona Coyotes in exchange for a 2023 third-round pick. Next, Zach Sanford, congratulations. You just earned your third jersey of the year going from the Ottawa Senators to the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for a 2022 fifth-round pick. Great deal for Winnipeg, to be quite honest. We'll get to that later. Next, my New Jersey Devils finally making a trade here, but what do they get? They get that goddamn Hamburglar. Acquiring Andrew Hammond from the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for minor league prospect Nate Schnarr. I actually really like this deal for the Devils, and well, I think it's like the 8th or 9th goaltender that the Devils get. I think fans get a free Sunday. I don't know. Check your tickets, everybody. But next, the New York Rangers making moves again. This time, a minor move, picking up former Devils forward Nick Merkley in exchange for Anthony Boteto from the San Jose Sharks. Good value move for the New York Rangers here. Another good value move coming up right here for the New York Rangers, acquiring Tyler Mott from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for a 2023 fourth-round pick. Next, big splash move here for Pittsburgh, acquiring Ricard Raquel from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for a 2022 second-round pick. Zach Aston Reese, Dominic Simon, and Cale Klang. Great deal here for Anaheim, in my opinion, in my honest opinion. Next, the Edmonton Oilers acquiring Derek Brassard from the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for a 2023 fourth-round pick, and the Flyers are going to retain 50% of Brassard's salary. Next, this was a 3-team deal here, but I'll just say the first 2 teams and then just go over what the third aspect of this is. Big trade, though, regardless. The Carolina Hurricane acquiring Max Domi and Tyler Inamoto, with Columbus acquiring Aiden Hreschuk. And the Florida Panthers were also in there as well to facilitate this trade. The Florida Panthers acquire forward Igor Korshkov from Carolina, a 2022 sixth-round pick from Columbus, and they will also retain 25% of Max Domi's total contract as well. Next, another interesting deal here, I think, for the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars acquiring Vladislav Nemestikov from the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for a 2024 fourth-round pick. Next, the Calgary Flames acquiring Ryan Carpenter from the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for a 2024 fifth-round pick. Next, the Ottawa Senators acquiring Michael McNiven from the Calgary Flames for a bag of pucks. Next, the Tampa Bay Lightning acquiring Riley Nash from Arizona for, you guessed it, a bag of pucks. Now, finally, a bigger deal. This time, Tom's own New York Rangers acquiring Andrew Kopp and a 2023 sixth-round pick in exchange for Morgan Barron, minor league top prospect, a 2022 second-round pick, a 2023 second-round pick, and a 2023 fifth-round pick. I'll explain later why I really like this for the Rangers. Next, finally in the home stretch of this, I believe. Yeah, we finally are. Thank God. Next, Seattle acquiring Victor Rask from the Minnesota Wild in exchange for a bag of pucks. Next, the Tampa Bay Lightning acquiring Alexei Malinchuk from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for Antoine Morand. And finally, the LA Kings acquiring Nelson I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. Nelson Nogier from the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for Marcus Phillips. And then there was the trade that wasn't. And
oh my God,
this was a mess. This was.
I love it.
It's not even a mess because of Vegas. It wasn't even a mess really because of Vegas, but it's still hilarious. The only trade that Vegas tried to make and they botched it. It would have seen Evgeny Dadonov and a 2023 second-round pick go to Anaheim in exchange for John Moore and Ryan Kessler's remaining contract, which he is on LTIR with the purpose of retirement at the moment, but his contract is still being paid by Anaheim. But the NHL invalidated this trade today because Evgeny Dadonov's contract includes a limited no-trade clause, which had not been complied with. Anaheim was on Evgeny Dadonov's no-trade list. Ottawa didn't file it for the Golden Knights, and the Golden Knights had no way of knowing that Evgeny Dadonov had a no-movement clause. Oh, good Lord, my voice after all of this. Holy moly.
And there's another caveat with that Vegas deal, but I'm going to get into that later because I just read something else that is not going to help them.
Absolutely bonkers, though. So out of all of these trades I just mentioned, Tom, what was your favorite trade and why?
Oh, come on. All the deals the Rangers made. It's like 94 all over again, except better because they didn't give up Tony Amonte and Mike Gartner.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like why I like the Hamburglar deal. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no, the Hamburglar deal was great, too. No, to tell you the truth, one that I really did like, and it's a team that we've openly criticized, and a lot of people have openly criticized for not addressing certain areas, and that's what the Toronto Maple Leafs did. They grabbed Mark Giordano. Now, obviously, this is not the Mark Giordano Norris Trophy winner from 3 years ago who was over a point per game, but he still averages a half a point a game, and he's still a good guy to have on either your second or third pair. I really, really like what the Leafs did. If there's one criticism of the Leafs that's been over the last few years, it's they don't address their defense, they don't address their goaltending. They desperately tried to address their goaltending, like I had mentioned earlier. They just couldn't get it done for whatever reason. I know they wanted Marc-Andre Fleury. It just didn't happen. The onus for Fleury going to Minnesota, I still don't know. That's a story for another day. But I do like them bringing in Giordano. He's a veteran. He's playoff tested. And he's projected to play on their third line, and hopefully he's going to help them out. So I really like that one.
Yeah, for me, the deal I really liked, and the Mark Giordano deal was great. And honestly, it was great for both sides. and for reasons I'll get to later with Seattle. I really liked Florida's acquisition of Claude Giroux, and I know that's a cop-out, but it's for a different reason. It's not just acquiring Claude Giroux for their playoff push and him being an important piece for this potential playoff push and for, potentially contending. It's more so what they had to give up to get him, which honestly wasn't much. I don't know what Philadelphia was thinking when they said, yeah, that deal seems fair.
I know what they were thinking. They don't have a choice. He said he only wanted to go to Florida. It's similar to the Marty San Luis situation a few years ago when he wanted out of Tampa. But here was the caveat with that, is that San Luis still had a year left on his deal, and they knew they could push the Rangers to give them what they wanted, because the alternative was they could have just went to Marty and said, hey, listen, you're stuck here. You're under contract us for a year. You're going to play, and we'll try, and maybe we'll move you in the summer. Maybe we won't. If they didn't move Giroux now, Giroux was walking in the summertime. Everybody and their mother knew that one, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. And it's more so like Philadelphia didn't only just give up Claude Giroux in this deal. They also gave up a prospect in Rubstov, who's in their top 5 in terms of prospect potential. I don't know. They could have done a lot better with the kickoff to the rebuild. They could have gotten more for Claude Giroux here, even if the guns to their head with Giroux basically saying it's Florida or else. I don't know. Its deal just still kind of falls flat, and I can understand why Flyers fans are honestly disappointed at the moment, because I'm disappointed with you. My only hope is that you get more value in the summertime for Travis Konechny and maybe other pieces that you might cast off. At least you got good value for Justin Braun. I would not have paid a 3rd-round pick for that in any day. Sorry, Tom, but I wouldn't have given a 3rd-round pick for Justin Braun. That's just a little too much.
I didn't understand that one either. The Rangers have a ton of defensive prospects and ton of defensive depth. He wasn't really needed. Out of the 3 guys they got last night, he looked the worst of the 3. But then again, nobody looked really good last night for the Rangers either. So
yeah. And for everybody else listening at home, like I said before, comment down below with what your favorite deal was, honestly, because we want to hear from you guys. What was your favorite deal of the trade deadline? But as we move on from here, we got to pump the brakes. We got to talk a little bit about winners and losers. Who do we really like coming out of this trade deadline? Who do we really not like coming out of this trade deadline? So let's pump the brakes.
Not so fast. It's time to pump the brakes.
Talking right now about winners and losers of the trade deadline this past year. So we'll start with winners first. We'll talk about teams that we feel like made the most out of the deals that they made, or made the most out of, deals that they might not have made, and now currently look better coming into the end of the season as we approach the Stanley Cup playoffs, which is just over the horizon at this point. So, Tom, who do you feel were winners of the trade deadline?
Well, I mean, as I had mentioned above, I love what the Toronto Maple Leafs did with Giordano. I love what my own favorite team did, the Rangers, addressing their 3rd and 4th lines with some players who can be interchangeable parts, I like Kopp. I liked the way Tyler Mott played last night. I liked what Colorado did, bringing those 2 depth players in last week. And to tell you the truth, I had forgotten they had gotten Lehkonen until you mentioned it. And that's going to be a big help for them, especially when they get guys back from injury like Gabriel Landeskog. That's going to be a huge help for Colorado. I like what Calgary did, bringing in Yarncroft and bringing in, I'm drawing a blank on the other name. Toffoli. Yeah, I love what they did. And it pains me to say this, and I'm going to bring this up later on, but Pittsburgh, I loved what Pittsburgh did with Raquel. And I'm going to explain why I love it later on. But that, for me, just looking at their depth chart right now, is huge. I also liked what Tampa did. And I guess a lot of people, you were scratching your head about Tampa, but Steven Stamkos went out and said it best. He said, listen, we have 2 Stanley Cups in a row. We're going for number 3. We don't have much time left to do it. If we wait around for guys to develop in 5 years, a lot of us are going to be too old to really turn this thing around. So, and I guess that, and I don't mean to ramble, I'm going to leave it at this. I guess the downside about Tampa was that it took them so many years to win, is that now they're not like a Boston Bruins or a Pittsburgh Penguins where they won their cup early and had enough time to replenish their depth players to go out and consistently keep winning over a 10 to 15-year period. And Stamkos hit the nail on the head. It's spot on. They're not going to be able to do that right now, next year, this year, next year, maybe the year after, is their time to shine before things in Tampa are going to start going south. So I do like what Tampa did as well. I'm sorry, bringing in Hagel. I really like what they did.
Yeah. All of those teams that you mentioned, I really like what they did. And I've got a couple different teams that I'll mention here. I really liked what the Seattle Kraken did to stockpile assets. This is a team that knew full well. This is a general manager in Ron Francis. He knew that this team was not competing this year. This team was on the outside looking in the playoff picture. So they got the best possible pieces that they could with the assets that they had to offer. And they stockpiled a lot of picks. They have 3 or 4 second round picks this year, and they have 2 or 3 second round picks next year. So really good value that they got in a lot of their deals this year. They got younger, and they have some potential with what they could draft this year or what they could use with those draft picks in the summertime, mixing and matching different moves, trying to maybe take some players off of teams' hands that are more cap strapped and make this team more competitive next year. I mean, this is a team that is going to be built around their top prospect in their system right now, Matty Beniers. So once he comes up and he starts hitting the ground running, they start building around him. And this could be a Seattle team that could be very interesting to watch in the next few years. So really good moves there by the Seattle Kraken overall. I hate to admit it, I really liked what the Rangers did at the deadline too, especially picking up Andrew Kopp. This is the person that I really wanted to elaborate on. The reason why I really liked the acquisition of Andrew Kopp, as painful as it was for some Rangers fans to see Morgan Barron traded in a deal like this. I know it hurts, but there's the old adage that goes, you got to give a little to get a little. And this is the perfect example, because what Andrew Kopp brings to the New York Rangers is versatility. This is a versatile forward who can line up at center or at wing, but with his ability in the faceoff circle and his ability to win crucial faceoffs, Kopp gives the Rangers exactly what they need down the middle, in the middle of their middle six. And they've needed center help for the past year now. They could use another really good center who doesn't need to step in and be the number 2 center, be the number 1 center. This guy can live and breathe on that third line, maybe even float on down to the 4th line on some occasions, or if you really need him, float on to the wing because he's just as effective there. I just really think this was a great acquisition for the Rangers. If you were going to pick up a Swiss Army knife, this is a perfect Swiss Army knife to pick up, and I think is perfect for a playoff push this year, and he's going to be a very big piece for them coming into the playoffs this year. Lastly, Florida, just for obvious reasons that I know Tom's going to disagree with, but I'm just going to keep digging that dagger in. Florida's more set up now than they were before for a playoff run. And I know that they still need to prove it. I know that they still need to actually win a series. They need to win 4 games. I know. But I trust in this particular iteration of the Florida Panthers' ability to win 4 games in the playoffs than I did in previous years. And just simply because you've got some monsters on that team. You've got players like Alexander Barkov that does Alexander Barkov-like things. He has silky mitts. He just makes plays left and right. He is a fantastic player in the NHL. You have the potential Hart Trophy winner in Jonathan Huberdeau this year, who has been an absolute scoring machine this year. And you're adding Claude Giroux to that mix. And Claude Giroux, even at his age, he's no slouch. He's also a UFA at the end of this year as well. So he certainly got a lot to play for, not only for his best opportunity to win a Stanley Cup in the longest time, but then also for his next contract wherever he goes next. So that, coupled with the other moves that they made, they also picking up Robert Haig, a lot of familiarity playing on a line with Radko Gudas, my favorite defender of all time, of course. But you got chemistry between those two. Playing on the bottom pairing between the both of them can be really, really nice. Ben Sherratt also being picked up here. And hey, stop me if you've heard this one. Aaron Ekblad going on to LTIR could be ready for the playoffs, but now Florida doesn't need to do anything with their cap situation.
Mhm.
I've seen this episode before.
Oh, we're going to talk about a new one that's just that just premiered today in a few minutes.
Ooh, exciting. But stay tuned for that episode because, well, it's the same reruns that we're all used to. But like I said, those teams, those were clear winners in my mind. I felt that Seattle was a clear winner. The Rangers were, that the Florida Panthers were. And I'll even say it, sometimes the best move is no move. I thought the Devils won by not making any knee-jerk moves. I think picking up Andrew Hammond in a resurgence this year for him was perfect. It takes the load off of Nico Dawes. It takes the pressure off of him to start every single game. You can throw Andrew Hammond in there, who's a grizzled veteran that can come in, give him relief, and play. I'm fine with not dealing Damon Severson, especially since it seems like the intention is to resign him, which is great. I'm fine with not dealing Pavel Zacha because why rush to make a deal when he's injured right now when you can make it in the summertime instead? And I'm fine with not dealing PK Subban because if you really weren't going to get much for him and teams really weren't interested, then it's fine just to not move him and just let him become a UFA at the end of the year and let that be done and just let that contract come off the books. Sometimes the best move is no move. And honestly, I was happy with what the Devils did. I'm not crying to fire general manager Tom Fitzgerald. I think he's doing a fantastic job. Devils fans fight me on it, seriously. But there are winners. There are losers. We got to talk some losers because there are some very obvious losers here. Tom, who do you feel could have done a lot better in the trade deadline this year? Who do you think got fleeced? Who do you think should have made more moves? What do you think?
Well, Vegas, all I can say is wow. So first off, Jack Eichel's injured. We know that. We don't know when he's going to be back. Nobody does. The guy who they basically sold the farm for, now they don't even know when he's going to play again. And it's an unrelated injury to the one he had before. So they go out and try to trade Dadonov to make some room for guys who might be able to play. Dadonov deal, as we talked about, has now been nixed. And I don't understand how Vegas, who structured maybe didn't structure the contract. I don't know how they didn't read his contract before they traded him with the no movement clause. So now that they're stuck with Evgeny Dadonov, guess what? In the latest episode of long-term injury reserve and salary cap constraints in the playoffs coming up, guess who can't play now? Alec Martinez and Mark Stone cannot play for the Vegas Golden Knights due to salary cap restraints, possibly for the rest of the season unless they somehow figure something out. So now Vegas is pretty much digging their own grave, like I said they've been doing. And you want to know what? This organization with their pull the trigger on everything in sight, it's now coming back to bite them. It really is. And could this be the first domino falling to really hurt the Vegas Golden Knights? I truly don't know. But all I can say is wow. Just wow. For an organization that's been lauded for the moves that they've made and the players they've brought in, this is really, really concerning with them. And this is a team that might not even make the playoffs. So basically, if they don't make the playoffs, you pretty much have two guys who are technically on long-term injury reserve, even though they might not be injured anymore, are going to have to sit out the rest of the season. Bad move. Bad move by the Golden Knights. What more can I say? Another team I want to bring up before I turn it over to you, and I'm going to be brief with this one, is the Edmonton Oilers. They didn't do anything. They didn't address depth. They didn't address their defense. And they didn't address their goaltending. And here we go again. It's the same old Oilers MO. We're going to rely on McDavid and Draisaitl to do everything. And we're going to think that it's 1985. And if we just go out there and skate faster than everybody, we're going to win the Stanley Cup because they think Connor McDavid is equivalent to Wayne Gretzky in 1985. McDavid's a great player. I just think Gretzky's that much greater. But the Oilers, I have no confidence in the Oilers whatsoever. And if the Oilers do make it, do they even get out of a first round? If there's a battle of Alberta against Calgary in the first round, is anybody serious about Edmonton coming out of that? Because normally in these, it was either in the history of the Battle of Alberta, it's either been a quick series with Edmonton or usually a 7-game knockdown drag-out fight that Edmonton wins. This may be a first in Battle of Alberta playoff history where Calgary comes out in a short series. We shall see.
Yeah, and I won't beat a dead horse with another dead horse here, but with Vegas, just like First, you don't address the goaltending, which is something that you needed to address. There, you did no acquisition for a goaltender there. You needed to shed salary cap, and you tried to in getting Dadonov, and you failed miserably because, God forbid, you read contract details.
I mean, isn't that your job? Isn't that your job as a general manager?
Pretty much. It just, between not landing a goaltender and the entire Evgeny Dadonov fiasco, I don't know how much I can believe in their ability to reach the conference final this year, let alone win a playoff series this year, especially if they're not all fully healthy. I mean, they're kind of just hoping that with, Alec Martinez and Mark Stone stuck on LTIR purgatory right now, they're just kind of really, really hoping that Tanya Harding just comes out from like a shadowy corner and just like takes a crowbar to Evgeny Dadonov or Riley Smith's ankle, just bam. Oh, it looks like he can't play. Hey, okay, we have room. Come on, guys, let's go play. Like, it's not going to happen. And that is just, they dug their own grave here. They got cocky. The other team I want to mention here as a loser is, and this is another tri-state team here, the New York Islanders. And why did Lou Lamoriello sit on his hands? The New York Islanders have struggled mightily this year in the scoring department. They have a few guys on this team that are legitimate scoring threats. That's Brock Nelson and Anders Lee, both of which have amassed over 20 goals this year, which is great. The problem is the next person behind there is Matthew Barzal. No knock on Matthew Barzal. He's a fantastic player, and he is what this team is built around. But he only has 12 goals. So it goes Brock Nelson with 27 goals, Anders Lee with 24 goals, and then the significant drop-off to Matthew Barzal with 12 goals. You have Kyle Palmieri, who got paid to score goals, and he only has 11 this year. He's turned it on as of late, thank God. But even still, he has not been a scoring threat like most have hoped. Oliver Wahlstrom has also struggled this year in a sophomore slump. 11 goals in 55 games. Noah Dobson has more goals right now as a defender than Anthony Beauvillier, than Zach Parise, than Josh Bailey. Josh Bailey has been an utter disappointment this year for the New York Islanders in the scoring department. Sure, he's been racking up assists, but that's what happens when you get to play, top 6 minutes. But the 6 goals in 53 games is not cutting it from a guy that's making almost $5 million a year. It's just not. And the fact that the New York Islanders did nothing to address this, they did absolutely nothing to try to help their chances for a potential late push this year. I just don't understand. They left Ilya Sorokin out for dead, and it sucks because Ilya Sorokin is the best goaltender in the entire Metropolitan Division, not named Igor Shesterkin and Freddie Anderson. It just sucks to see because he's the one major bright spot on a team that has been otherwise very underwhelming this year. Other honorable mention, obviously, to Matthew Barzal and Brock Nelson, and even Anders Lee. I'll give it to you on that one. But yeah, New York, I don't understand how we had this fall from grace. A major playoff threat last year to a playoff miss and disappointment this year.
Yeah, but how do you, at the same time, when you sign 2 players who are pushing 40 years old over the summer, I understand one, but how do you sign 2 and expect to improve?
Because it's Lou Lamoriello logic.
And I'll say one more thing about them before we move on. What did I say the last 2 years about the Islanders, even though I tooted their horn and loved how they played in the playoffs? How did they got lucky? They got lucky in a way. They got lucky 2 years ago because COVID hit. Because remember, they were teetering on not making the playoffs. And if they played a full 82 2 years ago, there's always a chance that they don't make it. And last year, they were in a division where you were only playing your divisional opponents. The Sabres, who were expected to do well in the beginning, never went anywhere. The Flyers, who a lot of people were high on, imploded early. And the Rangers, who people were saying could be a dark horse, imploded late. So they kind of just snuck into that last playoff spot last year and were able to just pretty much take advantage of the other teams in the division.
Yeah. I don't know. It's disappointing for Islanders fans in general this year because I honestly thought that there was a lot more in the tank for the New York Islanders. I thought they were one of the teams to beat this year. And I thought that they've also, to be quite honest, been turning it around. You would think that Lou would have made a gutsy move here at the deadline, but what does he do instead? He sits on his hands and then he decides, hey, Zach Parise, here's another year for you. Go out and skate, buddy. Oh, here's another 2 years to Cal Clutterbuck. Here you go. You earned it.
Yeah, they remind me of Tony Amonte in Calgary. I remember when he signed in Calgary. I forgot that he even played his second year there.
Yeah, it just, man, it doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. But hey, like I said, guys, we're not done with this episode just yet. But let us know in the comment section below what you think in terms of our winners and losers, and let us know who you felt were winners and losers down below as well. It's right down there, comment section. Drop a comment. We'd love to hear from you. We'll also wave and say hi. Maybe we'll even drop a heart for you guys and let us know how much we care. But time to move away from this. Let's talk about some players of the week. And from the past 2 weeks, it's time to talk high performance.
Your I-80 Sports High Performance Players of the Week.
All right, Tom, who are we highlighting this week? Who do you want to mention?
No homer alerts here. I'm going with Kyle Connor up in Winnipeg, 13 points in his last 5 games. Just give me 1 second here. The Jets are still sort of in the picture in the West, but it's going to take a lot for them to make it, to tell you the truth. Like, I'm looking at the West right now. I mean, they're teetering right on the line. So with the Jets. Another guy I want to highlight here is somebody that you had brought up and somebody whose jersey you're wearing, Roman Josi. Liked a lot of what Roman Josi did. Roman Josi, let's see, 12 points in his last 5 games. Predators are a playoff team. Don't think any of us expected that. Right now they're holding down that first wild card spot in the West, and that's probably the spot you do want. You probably, if you're a wild card team, you probably want Calgary in that first round instead of Colorado. So it'd be curious to see a Nashville-Calgary series. Who knows? Maybe it'll be some entertaining hockey. I'd watch it. So, yeah, Roman Josi, Kyle Connor. That's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why I wore Nashville this week. I mean, Roman Josi has been tearing it up. Just like I mentioned last week, Roman Josi saw a bunch of these defenders, kind of rising in the ranks of the Norris conversation. And Roman's just like, oh, wait, I'm sorry. Did you guys forget about me? Yeah. Enters his name right back in there. I mean, it's Cale Makar's trophy to lose at this point, but Roman Josi is at least going to give a push to it.
Yeah, I think if Fox didn't get hurt, he might be in there too. But that time he spent injured really didn't help him.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, at the same time, it's a good competition right now between Cale Makar and Roman Josi. I mean, both players are absolutely fun to watch right now. I'll mention another player from the Nashville Predators that I want to highlight here, who's been really doing well as the past couple of weeks. Philip Forsberg, just 17 points in his last 8 games, 8 goals, 9 assists during that time. And his teammate as well, Matt Duchene, 2 points behind him in 8 games, 15 points in 8 games, 7 goals, 8 assists. Just in general, Nashville has just been a very well-rounded team as of late. John Hines has been working his magic down there in Nashville, leading this team night in and night out. He's been doing a great job down there with this lineup. I'll go with a homer alert on this last one here because I'm just really impressed with how he's been playing as of late. He's recently been overshadowed by Jack Hughes, but Nico Hischier deserves a mention here because Nico Hischier in his last 10 games, last 10 games, 20 points in his last 10. He has been really turning it on as of late, 10 goals in that stretch as well. He has been a very, very productive player. In this stretch of time, in 54 games this year, he's at 44 points, 17 goals, 27 assists. Jack Hughes is getting a lot of the attention because he's the highlight reel right now with 49 points in 43 games, but don't overlook Nico Hischier for a second. This is a player that's becoming a very well-rounded center, and I love the way that he defended Mika Zibanejad last night against the Rangers. I thought he did a really, really good job overall and was also very noticeable on offense last night as well. So Nico Hischier, don't sleep on him just yet. There's a reason why he was drafted number 1 overall back in 2017. But this takes us right now to our question of the day, which the question of the day is simple, and you can answer this down in the comment section below. Who is the scariest team post-trade deadline? So, Tom, who do you think is the scariest team right now post-trade deadline? And, of course, why is it Colorado?
You know what? I'm not even sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. Florida bringing Giroux in makes them a lot scarier. Colorado, you addressed the depth. You brought in Josh Manson. You brought in Logan O'Connor. You brought in Arturi Lankinen. You're going to have Gabriel Landeskog, Samuel Girard, and Bowen Byron back eventually. So, yes, Colorado as well. Colorado's problem last year was depth. Colorado addressed that problem. What did they say during the Ranger Tampa game on ABC the other night? Despite having to listen to Sean McDonough sound like he was reading off a teleprompter the whole time, which almost put me to sleep. Ray Ferraro said it best. He said, a lot of teams now, when you go out there at the deadline or you go into free agency, you usually right now, whether it's through the draft or whether it's through a big free agent signing, you usually have your top 6 and your top defenseman and your starting goalie short up. So you go out and you look to find the best players who can fit into your middle 6 or bottom 6 or your second or third defensive pairs. And that's what Colorado, I feel like, went out and did. But here's another team who did that. And a team that I'm looking right now at their depth chart, and I'm sitting here and I'm legitimately worried right now just as a selfish Ranger fan. And that team is the Pittsburgh Penguins. When you go back to 2016, 6 years ago now, it's hard to believe when they won their first of 2 back-to-back cups. Their best line those playoffs, and the line that a lot of teams had trouble dealing with, was their third line, the HBK line. And I'm not talking about Shawn Michaels, and I'm not talking about the sandwich that Permante's made, ham, bacon, and kielbasa. I'm talking about Carl Hagelin, Nick Bonino, and Phil Kessel. I'm talking about that line. That line was the biggest cog for that team's Stanley Cup win in 2016. So go to this year. I'm on Daily Faceoff right now. This is just on paper. We don't know how they're going to do this. They may very well change this up over the next few days. We don't know. But right now, you're looking at a third line of Ricard Raquel on the left, Jeff Carter in the middle, Kasperi Kapanen on the right. That is a scary third line. And like I alluded to before, what Ray Ferraro said, and what a lot of people are saying, and it's a true fact, what wins Stanley Cups these days is depth. Especially your forward depth is what wins you a Stanley Cup. It's something that the Detroit Red Wings started in the 90s when Scotty Bowen was their coach and they had embarrassment of riches on forward, and it still rings true to this day. And that third line for Pittsburgh, for me right now, is scary. It's a scary third line. It may very well be the best third line in the league at the present time. So, yeah, I think they're a little scary too.
Yeah, and I agree with your Pittsburgh take there, and nice shout out to Shawn Michaels there. But
I'm more of a Bret Hart fan myself.
Same. But to me, it's Florida. I mean, Florida comes out looking a lot scarier. You look at this top 6 right now for Florida, and it's scary. I mean, just on paper on Daily Faceoff as well. On the first line, you got Carter Verhaeghe, Alexander Barkov, and Claude Giroux. And then on the second line, you've got Jonathan Huberdeau, Sam Bennett, and Anthony Duclair. Pushing Sam Reinhart down to the third line with Mason Marchment and Ito Luostarinen. And this is also without Anton Lundell in this lineup right now. Plus, you also have Joe Thornton playing down on the fourth line with Noel Acciari and Maxim Mammon right now. And this lineup is balanced. This lineup is looking really, really healthy right now. And then when you consider that with Aaron Ekblad being out at the current moment, but the defensive pairing as of right now on paper being Ben Sherratt with Mackenzie Weegar, Gustav Forsling with Radko Gudas, and Robert Haig with Brandon Montour, I'd probably flip Gudas and Montour just to put Haig and Gudas together. This team is going to go places, I think. This is a really, really good team. And then in net, you're solid between Bobrovsky and Knight. Bobrovsky really being that number one goaltender this year. I don't know, man. Florida, to me on paper, looks very, very scary and should not be overlooked just because they haven't won a playoff series. This could very well be the year. So we'll see what happens. But hey, as always, guys, what do you guys think? You got to let us know down in the comment section below. While you're there, drop a like and subscribe if you're not subscribed already, because you might not realize it. You're not subscribed. Hit subscribe, hit the bell so that way you know when we go live and when we post. But you can also follow us on our website down below at i80sports.com, where you can also check out our other content besides our NHL content. We've got NFL, NCAA football, MLS, NBA, wrestling content, you name it, it is there. You can also hit up our shop, get yourself a t-shirt as low as $8 as you roll into spring with style. And if you're on Twitter, make sure you follow us down below at i80_sportsNHL. And if you're following us already, thank you guys so much, because we greatly value all of your support. Without you guys, we can't do this on a weekly basis. But It's time to move away from the trade deadline. It has come. It has passed. It's time to watch some more hockey and focus on who is going to make the playoffs right now. And we'll be here with you every step of the way. You got to make sure you check us out. And the only way you do that is to keep watching week in and week out. With that said, I'm Brian. He's been Tom. This has been yet another episode of NHL on I-80 Sports.